The Great Hall of the Galactic Council hummed with tension. Hundreds of alien representatives sat in the curved rows of seats, their attention fixed on the massive hologram floating in the center of the chamber. The image showed a writhing mass of purple and black energy, growing larger by the second as it consumed everything in its path. High Counselor Rex, a tall being with metallic skin, stood at the main podium. "This anomaly has already destroyed 3 solar systems," he announced, his voice echoing through the chamber. "It's moving toward populated space. We need immediate action." The warrior races, known throughout the galaxy for their battle prowess, sat proudly in their sections. The Titans, huge rock-like beings, crossed their arms. The Swarm, insect-like creatures famous for their fearless attacks, clicked their mandibles. The Steel Legion, cyborg warriors who had conquered 1,000 worlds, remained motionless in their seats. "Who will step forward to investigate this threat?" Rex asked, looking at the assembled warriors. "Who will save our people?" Silence filled the hall. The warrior races looked at each other, their usual boldness absent. Finally, General Stone of the Titans stood up. "High Counselor, we have analyzed the data. The energy readings are off the scale. Any ship that approaches will be torn apart. We cannot waste our warriors on such a hopeless mission." The Swarm Queen raised her feelers. "Even our high ship cannot survive those conditions. We must find another way." More excuses followed. The Steel Legion calculated a 99% chance of destruction. The Fire Clans claimed their plasma ships would be useless. One by one, the greatest warriors in the galaxy admitted they could not help. In the back of the hall, in the smallest section reserved for the newest members of the council, sat James Miller, Earth's ambassador. Humans were considered the cowards of the galaxy. They always used robots instead of fighting directly. They studied problems instead of charging in. They retreated when others would fight. Miller watched the hologram carefully, taking notes on his tablet. He studied the energy patterns, compared them to Earth's database, and thought about humanity's history of dealing with dangerous situations. After the last warrior race refused to help, he stood up. "Earth will investigate the anomaly," he said simply. Laughter erupted in the chamber. General Stone pointed a rocky finger at Miller. "The cowards want to help. Will you send your robots to die instead of real warriors?" Miller smiled. "We will send our best research vessel, the Prudence, with a full crew. But yes, we will use drones and probes first. We will study the anomaly before taking unnecessary risks." Typical human weakness, the Swarm Queen hissed, always afraid to face danger directly. High Counselor Rex raised his hand for silence. He looked at Miller with glowing eyes. "You understand this mission may be certain death. Your people are not known for bravery in such situations." "With respect," Miller replied, "there's a difference between bravery and recklessness. We've studied the initial data. We believe we can find a way to approach safely. Earth has experience with similar phenomena." "Experience running away from them," someone shouted, causing more laughter. Miller continued calmly. "Experience studying them and solving them without losing lives needlessly. Our ship can be ready in 2 days." Rex looked around the chamber. The warrior races had fallen silent, perhaps shocked that the humans would volunteer when they had refused. The High Counselor nodded slowly. "The Council accepts Earth's offer," he said, "though we have little choice, as no one else will go. Let it be recorded that when the bravest warriors stepped back, humanity stepped forward." Miller sent the mission details to his tablet as he walked out of the chamber. Behind him, he could hear the warrior races arguing, defending their decisions, claiming the humans were fools who would soon be destroyed. He smiled again. They didn't understand. Humanity had learned long ago that true courage wasn't about rushing into danger. It was about facing challenges intelligently, about finding ways to solve problems without sacrificing lives. The Prudence and her crew would prove that to the galaxy. As he reached the transport pod to return to the Earth Embassy, Miller sent a message to Captain Tom Walker. "Prepare your ship and crew. We have a mission, and a chance to show the galaxy what human courage really means. The Council's challenge had been set. Now it was time for humanity to show that sometimes the most courageous act was to be careful, thoughtful, and willing to solve problems that even the bravest warriors feared to face. The Earth ship Prudence hung at the edge of safe space, its white hull gleaming against the backdrop of stars. On the bridge, Captain Tom Walker studied the massive energy anomaly through the main viewport. The purple-black mass twisted and churned, twice the size of Earth's moon. "Launch probe Series A," Walker ordered, his voice calm despite the tension on the bridge. The crew worked efficiently at their stations, no one speaking unnecessarily. Through the viewport, small drones shot from the Prudence's launch bays, their lights blinking as they approached the anomaly. 3 warships from different warrior races had arrived to watch. A Titan stone ship, a swarm high ship, and a Steel Legion cruiser. They transmitted messages constantly, mocking the human approach. "Look at the cowards, hiding behind their machines," the Titan commander broadcast. Real warriors would charge in and face the threat directly. Walker ignored them. "Data coming in from the probes," announced First Officer Robert Green. "Energy patterns are strange. They're not random. There's a pattern here." The first probe reached the edge of the anomaly. Instead of being destroyed instantly as everyone expected, it managed to transmit for nearly 30 seconds before going dark. The bridge crew leaned forward, analyzing every bit of information. "Launch Series B probes," Walker commanded. "Adjust their shields based on the new data." More drones shot forward. On the other ships, the warrior races watched in frustration. The Swarm Queen's voice crackled over the comm. "This is useless. You waste time while the anomaly grows. Attack, or leave this to real warriors." The second wave of probes lasted longer. One even managed to penetrate the outer layer of the energy field. The data it sent back made Walker sit up straight in his command chair. "These readings," he said softly, "they're similar to brainwave patterns, much larger scale, but the basic structure." "Captain," Green pointed at the screen. "The anomaly, it's reacting to the probes, not attacking them. It's studying them." Walker nodded slowly. "Because we're not attacking it. We're trying to understand it." He turned to his science officer, John Peters. "Adjust the probe signals. Let's try to match those patterns, create a basic response." The warrior ships continued to mock them, but there was a new tone in their voices. Uncertainty. The humans were achieving something they hadn't expected. The third wave of probes carried the new signals. As they approached the anomaly, the massive energy field stopped its violent churning. It seemed to focus on the tiny machines. "It's definitely responding," Peters reported. "The pattern is changing, becoming more organized, almost like it's trying to communicate." Walker stood up, watching intently. "This isn't just an anomaly. It's alive. And it's intelligent." A burst of energy from the anomaly swept over the Prudence. The warrior ships backed away quickly, but Walker held his ground. The ship's sensors translated the energy burst into data. "Captain," Green said, his voice filled with wonder, "these patterns, their language, mathematical sequences, it's talking to us." The bridge crew worked frantically, translating the signals. Walker sent the data to the ship's AI for analysis. Within minutes, they had a rough translation. "Pain," Walker read from the screen. "It's in pain. That's why it's been destroying everything near it. It's injured somehow, lashing out like a wounded animal." The warrior ships had fallen silent, watching as the humans did what they couldn't. Through patience, study, and careful approach, the Prudence had made first contact with an entity they had all assumed was just a mindless threat. Walker opened a channel to all ships. "This is Captain Walker. We've made contact with the entity. It's a living creature, injured and afraid. With proper care and communication, we might be able to help it and stop the destruction of more systems." The response from the warrior ships was silence. They had no experience with this kind of situation. Their solution would have been to attack, likely killing the creature and causing more damage to space itself. "Prepare the medical drones," Walker ordered, "and get me a direct line to Earth. We're going to need specialists for this." He smiled slightly. "Let's show the galaxy how humans handle a real crisis." The Prudence's crew began their work, ignoring the watching warships. They had proven that courage wasn't about charging in blindly. Sometimes, the bravest thing was to stop, think, and find a way to turn an enemy into a friend. The bridge of the Prudence had transformed into a makeshift research center. Screens displayed complex energy patterns while the main viewport showed the now calmer anomaly, its purple-black mass pulsing slowly like a heartbeat. Captain Walker stood with his senior staff, studying the latest data. "The entity's in tremendous pain," he explained, pointing to a particular pattern. "See how the energy spikes here? It's like nerve signals in a living being." "That explains its violent reactions," First Officer Green added. "It's like an injured animal thrashing around. No wonder the warrior race's aggressive approach would have made things worse." The medical drones hovered near the entity, sending soothing signal patterns matched to its own frequencies. With each passing hour, the violent outbursts decreased. The creature was learning to trust them. On the main screen, the Titan commander's rocky face appeared. "This is pointless. You treat this monster like a pet while it could destroy us all." Walker turned to face the screen. "Commander, have you ever been badly hurt? When you're in pain, do threats and attacks make you calmer, or do they make you fight harder?" The Titan fell silent, his stone features showing confusion at this simple logic. Dr. Peters, the science officer, called from his station. "Captain, new data coming in. The entity, it's ancient. These energy patterns suggest it's existed since the early days of the galaxy." More information flowed in as the medical drones continued their work. The entity was gradually sharing its story through mathematical and energy patterns. The bridge crew worked tirelessly to understand. "It's a guardian," Green announced suddenly, looking up from his readings. "It protects something, space-time itself. The patterns match ancient records of cosmic maintainers." Walker nodded slowly. "And something injured it. No wonder it's been lashing out." He turned to his communications officer. "Send a message to the entity. Tell it we understand it's hurt, and we want to help." The response came quickly, a complex burst of energy that their systems translated into images and concepts. The creature showed them how it had been wounded by a collision with a dark matter stream, how the pain had driven it into a panic. "Look at this," Peters said softly. "It's been trying to heal itself, but it doesn't know how. It's been alone, hurting, scared, for centuries." The warrior ships continued to watch, their crews growing increasingly uncomfortable. They had been ready to attack this ancient being, to destroy something they hadn't even tried to understand. Walker pressed a button on his chair. "This is Captain Walker to all ships. We've confirmed that this entity is a guardian of space-time, injured and afraid. Our caution wasn't cowardice, it was wisdom. If we had attacked, we might have damaged the very fabric of space itself." The Swarm Queen's voice came back, subdued. "How can you be sure it won't attack once it's healed?" "Because we understand fear," Walker replied. "Humans have learned that fear isn't weakness. It's a warning system, telling us to be careful. We've learned to respect it, to use it to make better decisions." He walked to the viewport, watching the ancient guardian. "This being isn't attacking out of malice. It's crying out for help. And because we took the time to listen instead of charging in, we can actually provide that help." The medical drones had developed new patterns now, directly addressing the entity's injury. The purple-black energy field was changing, becoming more organized, less chaotic. The pain signals were decreasing. "We're making progress," Green reported. "The Guardian is responding to treatment. It's actually trying to communicate more clearly now." The warrior ships maintained their distance, but their mockery had ceased. They were witnessing something they had never considered: Victory through understanding and patience rather than force. Walker smiled as he watched the Guardian's energy patterns stabilize further. Sometimes the bravest thing isn't to fight, he said quietly. Sometimes it's to stop and listen, to understand why there's a fight in the first place. The Prudence's crew continued their work, carefully healing the ancient being that protected spacetime itself. They had turned a seemingly impossible threat into a chance for understanding, proving that humanity's cautious approach wasn't born of cowardice, but of wisdom learned through long experience. And in the depths of space, the Guardian's pain began to fade, replaced by something new: trust in these careful, thoughtful beings who had chosen to help rather than harm. The medical bay of the Prudence buzzed with activity as the crew prepared for the most delicate phase of their mission. Dr. Peters had converted the entire section into a specialized energy treatment center, with new equipment designed to heal the Cosmic Guardian. The dark matter injury is like a deep wound, Peters explained to Captain Walker, pointing to the complex diagrams floating in the air. We need to essentially stitch spacetime back together. Outside the ship, specially modified drones moved in a careful dance around the Guardian. Each one carried equipment that generated specific energy frequencies, working together to create a healing field. It's similar to how doctors use to heal wounds, Walker said, watching the operation through the viewport. Clean the injury, stop the bleeding, help the patient recover. First Officer Green monitored the Guardian's responses from his station. The entity is staying remarkably still now. It understands we're trying to help. The warrior ships had maintained their distance, but their communication showed growing interest rather than scorn. Even they couldn't deny the progress being made. Beginning primary treatment, Peters announced. The drones moved closer, their energy beams connecting to form a web of light around the injured section of the Guardian. This is the critical moment. If we make one wrong move. Walker nodded. Steady everyone. This is why we plan carefully. This is why we take our time. The Guardian's massive form shuddered as the treatment began. Purple-black energy swirled and twisted, but not violently like before. It was more like a patient wincing during necessary medical care. Energy patterns are shifting, Green reported, his eyes fixed on his screens. The Guardian is. It's actually helping us. It's directing its own energy to work with our treatment. Suddenly, alarms blared. One of the drones had drifted too close to a sensitive area, causing a surge of defensive energy from the Guardian. The drone spun away, damaged but not destroyed. Hold position, Walker commanded. Don't pull back. Show the Guardian we won't abandon it just because things got dangerous. The crew worked quickly to adjust their approach. More drones moved in to compensate for the damaged one, maintaining the healing field. The Guardian's energy pulse steadied again. Look at that, Peters breathed, pointing to his readings. The dark matter damage is actually beginning to heal. The Guardian's own regenerative abilities are kicking in now that we've shown it how. From the Titan ship came an unexpected transmission. Your methods are effective, the commander admitted grudgingly. Perhaps there is something to be learned from this approach. Walker allowed himself a small smile as he watched the operation continue. There's always something to learn, Commander, especially from those you underestimate. The healing process continued for hours. The crew worked in shifts, maintaining their careful focus despite exhaustion. The Guardian remained cooperative, its vast intelligence clearly understanding their intentions now. Final phase beginning, Peters announced. The drones adjusted their positions one last time, their healing beams intensifying. We're sealing the last of the damage. Green's console lit up with new data. Captain, the Guardian, it's communicating again. But this time, it's different. Clear, structured patterns flowed through their systems. The Guardian had learned from their methods, figured out how to make its communications more understandable. It was thanking them, sharing its story more fully. It's been protecting this sector of space for millions of years, Green translated, maintaining the boundaries between dimensions, keeping space-time stable. When it was injured, It couldn't perform its duties properly. That's why the damage was spreading. Walker watched as the final traces of the dark matter injury faded. The Guardian's energy field shifted from purple-black to a deep, healthy blue. Its movements became smooth, controlled, purposeful. Treatment complete, Peters reported, relief clear in his voice. The Guardian is fully healed. The warrior ships broke their silence again, but this time with messages of congratulation. They had witnessed something unprecedented, a victory achieved through healing rather than harm. "Well done, everyone," Walker said to his crew. "We just proved that courage comes in many forms. Sometimes the bravest act is to heal instead of harm, to help instead of destroy." Outside the ship, the Guardian's massive form pulsed with renewed strength. Its energy patterns spoke of gratitude, of respect, and of a new understanding between species. The humans had succeeded not through force of arms, but through patience, wisdom, and the courage to be careful when others would have been rash. The Prudence's main conference room had never held such an unusual gathering. Captain Walker and his senior staff sat at one end of the table, while the commanders of the warrior ships attended via hologram. But the most remarkable presence was the shimmering blue energy field that filled one entire wall. The Guardian, now healed and ready to communicate. "We've established a stable translation matrix," Peters announced, adjusting the final settings. "The Guardian can now share its knowledge directly with us." The energy field pulsed, and clear thoughts formed in everyone's minds. The Guardian's ancient consciousness touched theirs gently, respecting their mental boundaries, something it couldn't have done when injured and afraid. "I am Keeper," the thoughts formed words. "Guardian of the spaces between spaces, protector of reality's boundaries. You have done more than heal me. You have taught me about your kind." The Titan commander's hologram shifted uncomfortably. We would have destroyed you, thinking you were just a threat." "Many have tried before," Keeper responded. "They attacked without understanding, and the damage caused by such battles took centuries to repair. But humans," the blue energy brightened. "Humans showed wisdom I have not seen in eons." Walker leaned forward. "We simply did what we thought was right. Sometimes the hardest choice is to take things slowly, to risk being called cowards rather than risk making things worse." The Guardian's energy swirled in what they now recognized as amusement. "Your species is young, yet you understand what many ancient races have forgotten. The universe is not simply a battlefield. It is a tapestry of delicate connections." Through the neural link, Keeper began sharing images of its work, the invisible barriers that kept reality stable, the delicate balance of forces that prevented dimensions from colliding. The warrior races watched in growing amazement as they realized how close they had come to damaging these crucial structures. "Your technology is primitive compared to many," Keeper continued, "but your approach is advanced. You think before acting. You seek to understand before deciding. These are the traits of true guardians." The Swarm Queen hologram moved forward. "We were wrong about humans. We called them cowards because they were careful, because they used machines to explore instead of risking lives needlessly. A lesson learned." Keeper pulsed. "But now I must share something more urgent. My injury was not an accident. Dark matter doesn't flow naturally in such destructive patterns." The room fell silent. Walker straightened in his chair. "You mean something caused your injury deliberately?" "Yes." The Guardian's energy darkened slightly. "There are forces moving in the galaxy, ancient powers awakening. They seek to destabilize the boundaries I protect. Had I been destroyed, as would have happened if the warrior races attacked, the barriers between dimensions would have weakened." Peters finished, his face pale. "Reality itself could have started breaking down." Keeper's energy field expanded slightly. "This is why I choose now to ally with humanity. Your careful approach, your willingness to study and understand. These are the qualities needed to face what comes." The warrior race commanders looked at each other through their holograms. They had come to mock what they saw as human weakness, only to discover that humanity's methods might be crucial to the galaxy's survival. "We offer our forces as well," the Steel Legion commander said suddenly. Perhaps we can learn from the humans, combine our strength with their wisdom." Walker stood, looking at the assembled faces. "Then we work together. Keeper can teach us about these threats, and we can develop careful, considered ways to face them. No charging in blindly. No unnecessary risks. A new age begins," Keeper pulsed. "One where courage is measured not by willingness to fight, but by wisdom to know when and how to act." The Guardian's energy brightened. "And it begins because humans, the so-called cowards of the galaxy, were brave enough to be careful." The conference room filled with new purpose as plans began to form. The warrior races started learning from human methods, while humanity prepared to face threats they had never imagined. And through it all, Keeper's presence reminded them that sometimes the greatest strength lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the courage to stop, think, and find a better way. 2 months after healing Keeper, the Prudence had become the center of an unprecedented galactic initiative. The once mocked human vessel now hosted training sessions for the galaxy's most powerful warrior races, teaching them a completely new approach to handling cosmic threats. In the ship's main training hall, Walker watched as a Titan commander carefully operated a control panel, guiding a probe through a simulated space anomaly. The massive rock-like being moved with surprising gentleness, its usual aggressive approach replaced by careful precision. "Excellent progress," Walker said. "Notice how much information you gathered without risking your ship or crew." The Titan nodded slowly. "We would have charged in before, weapons ready. But now I see. Knowledge is its own kind of weapon." Keeper's energy form hovered nearby, its blue glow providing additional insights through the neural link they all shared. "The old ways are changing. The warrior races learn to think before striking. This pleases me." Across the ship, similar scenes played out. Swarm leaders learned to use diplomatic approaches instead of overwhelming force. Steel Legion commanders study the art of gathering intelligence rather than launching immediate attacks. First Officer Green entered the training hall, his tablet displaying new data. "Captain, we've received reports from the outer sectors. 3 more dimensional weak spots have been detected, but this time our allies handled them properly." Walker smiled. "No casualties." "None. The Titan fleet actually prevented a Steel Legion battle group from attacking the spatial anomaly. They insisted on scanning it first." Green chuckled. "It turned out to be another injured cosmic being, smaller than Keeper. They're helping it heal now." Through their neural link, Keeper shared images of the galaxy's structure, showing how their new approach was already strengthening the fabric of space-time. "The old damages are healing. Where force once caused harm, understanding now brings restoration." The Swarm Queen's voice came over the ship's comm. "Captain Walker, my hives report success in the Carina sector. We adapted your probe designs to communicate with a quantum disturbance. It was not a threat at all, but a doorway used by energy beings. They have become our allies thanks to this peaceful approach." "The galaxy is changing," Keeper pulsed. "The humans' influence spreads, teaching others that true strength lies in wisdom, not just power." In the ship's science lab, Dr. Peters worked with representatives from 20 different species, all studying the complex web of reality that Keeper helped them understand. They were developing new technologies, combining the best of each species' knowledge with humanity's careful methodology. "We've detected the forces that injured Keeper," Peters reported as Walker entered the lab. "They're hiding in the spaces between galaxies, but now we know what to look for. We'll be ready when they make their move." The Titan commander turned his rocky face to Walker. "A year ago, we would have gathered our fleets and charged into those spaces, ready for glorious battle. Now we know better. We plan, we prepare, we study, and we're stronger for it," Walker added, "not despite being careful, but because of it." Keeper's energy flowed through the ship's systems, its ancient consciousness touching each mind gently. "The threats that come will test all of you, but united like this, With wisdom guiding strength, you can preserve the barriers between realities. You can maintain the balance. The warrior races had started calling the Prudence the School of Space, a name that would once have been an insult but was now spoken with respect. Every day, more ships arrived, their crews eager to learn the human approach to cosmic challenges. Walker stood at his favorite viewport, watching as a Steel Legion ship carefully practiced new scanning techniques. Behind him, Green read the latest reports. The Council has officially recognized Earth as the leading authority on spatial anomalies and cosmic beings, Green said. They're requesting we establish training centers on every major world. And to think, Walker replied, all this happened because we weren't afraid to be called cowards. Because we stayed true to our belief that rushing in isn't always the answer. Keeper's energy pulsed in agreement. You have changed the galaxy's path. When the ancient powers make their move, they will find not divided warriors ready to attack blindly, but united races who understand the true meaning of courage. The Prudence continued its mission, teaching the galaxy that sometimes the bravest action is to step back, think, and find a better way forward. The warrior races were learning that true strength comes in many forms, and that wisdom could be the greatest power of all. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council looked very different from the day when humanity first volunteered to face the anomaly. Where once mockery had filled the air, now respect and anticipation charged the atmosphere as representatives from hundreds of worlds gathered for a historic ceremony. Captain Walker and the crew of the Prudence stood on the central platform, their once plain uniforms now bearing the new symbol of the Galactic Guardians, a design that merged human DNA with Keeper's energy pattern. Above them, Keeper's massive blue form filled the upper chamber, its presence a reminder of how much had changed. High Counselor Rex stood at the podium, his metallic features showing genuine warmth. 1 year ago, in this very chamber, we witnessed what we thought was foolishness. When the bravest warriors stepped back, humanity stepped forward, not with weapons or war cries, but with careful thought and peaceful intention. The warrior races, once so proud of their aggressive ways, now sat differently in their sections. The Titans had exchanged their battle armor for researchers' gear. The swarm carried scanning devices instead of weapons. The Steel Legion ships outside the chamber were equipped with more probes than guns. Today, Rex continued, we recognize not just the crew of the Prudence, but the wisdom of the human approach. Their so-called cowardice has revealed itself to be the highest form of courage, the courage to think before acting, to understand before judging, to heal instead of harm. Walker stepped forward to receive the Council's highest honor, a crystalline award that caught Keeper's light and sparkled with all the colors of space. But more meaningful than the award were the changed attitudes throughout the chamber. The Guardian Keeper has chosen humanity as its primary ally, Rex announced. Together, they will lead our new Galactic Protection Initiative. All worlds will learn their methods, their careful approach to cosmic challenges. Through the neural link that now connected many species, Keeper shared images of the changes already spreading through the galaxy. Damaged space-time healing as races work together with understanding instead of force. Ancient beings, once hidden from aggressive species, now emerging to share their knowledge. The Titan General Stone, who had once mocked humanity's caution, stepped up to speak. We were wrong, he rumbled. We thought courage meant charging forward without fear. The humans taught us that true courage often means having the strength to wait, to think, to find a better way. The Swarm Queen clicked her agreement. Our hives now prosper more through careful study than they ever did through blind attack. We have learned that the greatest victories often come without battle. Walker looked out at the assembled races, remembering how they had once laughed at humanity's careful ways. We never sought to change how others saw us, he said. We simply stayed true to our belief that understanding is better than destruction, that wisdom can succeed where force fails. Keeper's energy pulsed warmly. The ancient powers that seek to destabilize reality now face a united galaxy. Not united in weapons, but in wisdom. This is humanity's greatest gift to the cosmos. The ceremony concluded with a demonstration of the new technologies developed through cooperation between races. Probes that could speak to cosmic beings, shields that could heal space-time, ways to explore the most dangerous regions of space without risking lives needlessly. Earth is now the training center for all species, Rex announced. The human approach will guide us as we face whatever threats await in the darkness between stars. They have taught us that being careful is not being afraid, it is being wise. As the celebration continued, Walker stood with his crew, watching the changed galaxy through the chamber's great windows. Ships of all species moved in careful, studied patterns. Research vessels outnumbered battleships. The stars themselves seemed brighter, as if approving of this new approach to exploring their mysteries. "We did it," First Officer Green said quietly. "We showed them a better way." Keeper's thoughts touched their minds one last time. "You have given the galaxy something it desperately needed. The courage to be careful, the wisdom to think before acting, the strength to choose peace over war when possible. This is why I chose humanity. This is why you will lead us all forward." The stars sparkled above the council chamber, watching as the galaxy embraced a new kind of courage, one that valued wisdom over warfare, understanding over attack, and the strength to be called cowards by those who had yet to learn the true meaning of bravery.